in and for choosing to spend some of your time with me. I'm Maria Milagros. This is Wisdom Wednesday, a little space that I like to carve out once a week in order to share nuggets, stories, tips, tools to help you, to help us get to next levels of healthy and happy, because let's be real, that's always the goal, right? So during the month of March, we're going to be talking about intuition. Now, I have to be honest with you. When I first heard this theme for the month in meditation, I was like, no, because so many people have so many negative ideas about intuition and and I'm gonna be real with you, especially Christians. In Christianity, they're like, it's not intuition, it's the Holy Spirit. And that, there's so many people that I know that just want to fight and bicker about these kind of things. And then I just kept hearing it over and over and over again. And so I had to trust my intuition and talk about intuition. So let's just start at the beginning. I want to share a couple of points. One, everybody has intuition. Every single human has this capacity, this kind of internal guide and compass that guides them to next levels of peace and health and happiness and joy and love, because essentially that is who we are. That's what we're made of. That's why we came here, right? What happens though is from a very young age, we begin to get programmed by the people around us, by society, by the media, and say, ignore your intuition, ignore what you feel, that gut feeling that you feel, ignore that kind of what's happening in your body, this kind of drawing or pushing away from, ignore that. And do what we tell you instead. Follow these rules. Do these things. Act this way. Dress like this. Speak like this. Talk like this. Look like this, right? Do these things. Buy these things. And then maybe you'll find happiness. And so we do. And we start to people please. And we stop connecting to and listening to this kind of guide that we have within ourselves. And we just keep letting. Initially, it's not letting. It's the programming. But then eventually when we have to come to a place where we realize that this is programming, which is good, because if we were programmed in one direction, we can reprogram ourselves back to our natural direction, right? I hope that makes sense. So when we're talking about intuition, some of the things that I learned is, and again, whether you call it the Holy Spirit, whether you call it, led by God, whether you call it universe or source or your higher self or your inner peace or whatever you decide to call this idea of intuition, and it's not an idea, it's an actuality, right? It is scientifically proven that we have these internal guides and that they are triggered when we come up to decision making. Now, I want to clarify this. There are some things in our brains that are triggered based on trauma, past experiences, and exposure that we've had. And then there are sensory points in our bodies that are triggered when we have emotion. And so they've recognized that those things can be almost like measured. Don't take my word for it. Look it up. It's quantum physics. It's really complex. I'm not going to go super into it, but they can be measured, which means that if I could measure it every time and use it as a guide, I'm going to move into spaces of greater peace, greater joy, greater love, greater health, and greater happiness, rather than suppressing that internal guide to listen to the voices, to the programming, to the data points that are in my head, right? Okay, so whatever you decide to call it, it is powerful. It is necessary. It has been known to be a thing since, thousands of years, right? But recently it is known to science and quantum physics, and they're going, oh my gosh, there really are these center guide points in the body that help guide, make decisions, right? And when we're blocked by negativity, when we're blocked by fear, we make decisions from those places. And then we find ourselves bumping into what? More negativity and more reasons to be afraid. Well, if you're leading from that place of fear and negativity, guess where you're going to land? Probably in a place of negativity and fear, right? So it is our necessity. It is an obligation, I believe, for myself anyways, maybe not for you, but for me, once I really started to tap into, hear, listen, and then move in accordance with my intuition, with my guidance, with my source, with what I have deemed, I call it my spirit. So, and sometimes I just call it spirit. And when I move in that direction, oh my gosh, And sometimes I don't want to move in that direction because I don't know what's coming next. And the other direction feels more calculated and like I can control it. But the truth is we can't control anything outside of ourselves, right? So when I do start heading in that direction, and then it has this way of working out magically, then it reinforces for me my trust in my spirit and like, oh, you literally have my best intention at heart. You literally only want the best for me. And sometimes it doesn't feel necessarily like I want to go in that direction because I have been feeling fear for so long, or have been like feeling lack for so long. So I want to head where it feels comfortable, even though it's not helpful. A lot of times we want to head in a direction that feels comfortable, even when it's not helpful, because it's so well programmed and we have so much momentum in that area, right? So we can't always trust our feelings, right? But our bodies do not lie. I know it's getting complex. Like, how do you talk about this without it getting complex? Let me hone it back. So we have to start paying attention to that voice, that small voice, because your inner guide, your intuition, your source, or even if you call it the Holy Spirit or God, does not yell and scream and nope. It's like, come this way, come this way, come this way. It's not like, no, my God, don't go over there. That's fear. It's like, come this way, come this way, come this way, right? So 2 quick stories. One, when I was in college, I remember parking my car on the street, and as I got out the car, I heard that really small voice that said, park someplace else. It didn't say, oh my God, you shouldn't park here, blah, blah, because that higher self is not rooted in fear, it's rooted in love, right? So it was like, park someplace else. Get back in the car, you have plenty of time, park someplace else. And I thought about it, and then I was like, nah, I'm going to leave the car right here because I don't want to move the car, and I just want to get inside the building. And as I'm walking from the car to the building, I just heard, you should park someplace else. Go move your car. You have time. Go move your car. You should park someplace else. And I'm like, quiet down, right? When I came out of my class, the side that all the cars that were up against the sidewalk, all of the tires on all of those cars had been slashed. Some random teenage kids decided it would be hilarious to use their mother's kitchen knife and slash the tires moving all the way down. How do I know that? Because they got caught by the campus police a little bit down the road. And when they got caught, the police was making his way up the street, leaving notes on everybody's car saying, we know what happened to your tires. Come and see us at the state police department. So we had to go down there, and there were these 2 teenage kids, and they're crying, and they're calling their parents, and they're calling the police, and blah, blah. They slashed my tires. And I paused, because as much as I wanted to be mad at them ratchet children, I also said, ugh, I should have trusted the voice that told me to move. And that's the thing about our intuition and our guide. Sometimes it seems so just like, you should go ahead and move the car, right? And so it's not until we start learning to listen to it, practicing following, that we become better equipped at knowing when it is speaking to us versus all the other muck and programming and crap that we've been used to for our whole lives, right? And then it starts to get stronger because we're tuning in. Like it necessarily doesn't get stronger. It is what it is. We're just finally tuning in. And so because we're tuning in, we're putting it on the right dial, if you will. That frequency feels stronger and we're hearing it more clearly, right? You ever put your radio on like one station just slightly above the station and it's kind of fuzzy and staticky, and then if you tune in, jet, crystal clear. It's like that. It's like that. Your intuition is like that, right? So here's another story. I had a client back when I first started my business a couple years ago, and she had been given she was looking for a job, and she had these 2 jobs that were offered to her. So she's telling me about these 2 jobs, and she's like, I'm all stressed out, blah, blah, blah. Why are you stressed by multiple opportunity? But this is what we do, because we have been programmed to believe that when we have multiple choices, it's supposed to be stressful. It should be exciting, right? But again, we have to be willing to do the work to rewrite that old programming. It should be exciting, but she was all stressed out. So I said, okay, I want you to put them both in front of you, take a second, glance them over, and then just sit back, put your hands on one-on-one contract, because it was like documents that they had given her, offer letters, one on one and one on the other. Just sit back and take a couple of deep breaths. So she did. And I said, which one feels like peace? Remove your hands, put the right hand, take a deep breath, and then try it again with the left hand, take a deep breath. Which one feels like peace? And she's like, this one. And she tells me which one it is. And I said, my recommendation is that you would go with that because you felt a great sense of peace from that, and you should trust that. And she says, I know, it does seem really interesting and exciting, but this other company is offering me more money to start. They're offering me more vacation time, and it just feels like more. And I'm like, I don't know. Like, you have to make the choice, what's best for you. My recommendation is that you follow your intuition, you follow your peace, right? Because obviously you logistically thinking it out is causing you stress. So maybe instead you should surrender this to something greater than yourself and just go where the peace is. That's the thing about our guide, our intuition, our spirit, that force. It really leads us towards spaces that feel like peace, because that is the goal. Really, like, everybody's running around stressed and doing all this stuff because maybe one day I'll have peace. How about have it now? How about practice having it now? Oh my gosh. Okay. And I can say that now, but I'll tell you what, I used to be that person running around crazy, constantly grinding, driving myself into the ground, not listening to my intuition and my guide, ignoring it in pursuit of this other thing in hopes that I fit the box so that I could check the things. Lord, it was exhausting. So she says, well, I told my parents about these and they want me to go with this one because it offers more money and it feels more stable. I said, you have to trust yourself. You have to trust yourself. You can make that decision for them and have them, say, oh, good, you went with the more money. You take this one and they roll their eyes at you. But you have to be 100% okay with your decision because you have to live with it. When we make decisions for other people, they don't have to live with those choices in our lives. We do. So we really should be trusting the peace that we feel or don't feel and moving accordingly, right? So that we can say, I'm willing to live with this decision, right? So, and then she's like, oh, I know, but I told my boyfriend about it and he thinks I should take this one too. You got to trust yourself. I'm not giving an opinion one way or another. What I'm saying is you need to trust yourself. This is the only way you're going to start developing, honing, harnessing this skill to be able to listen to your intuition. What happened? She decided to take the job that was not as much paying, but it seemed more exciting to her. It felt like peace. She's like, I'm just going to do it, right? That's why I'm here. I'm going to do it. I'm going to take it. She took that job. She loved it. 3 months later, this company went bankrupt. What? 3 months later, this company went bankrupt. They ended up closing their doors. Everyone got laid off, right? And it was like, so she calls me up. She tells me this. I'm like, of course, because our greater source knows more than we can see with our human eyes. And if we are willing to trust it, to relinquish control, and to operate from peace, we will have a life that we can begin to cultivate and create that is filled with the things that we want: health and happiness and love and joy and peace. And now, since she's been there, this has been like 3 years, she's gotten 2 promotions since then. What she's making now is way more than what she would have been making at that job. She loves the people she works with. She loves the company. She loves what she does, right? So it's like, initially, it didn't seem like, on paper, it didn't seem like the right thing. But we cannot always go by what we see with our eyes. We have to go by what we know and our greater knowing to be true, and let that be our guide. Whew! Okay, this is long enough. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to leave you here. I just want you to start thinking about, when is my intuition speaking to me? When is my guide? Does this feel like peace? That's your primary question. Does this feel like peace? Because peace is both your guide and your reward, right? And now I say that, and at the same time, there are times when I'll say to myself, okay, confront this person or not confront, which feels like peace. And to me, because our guide is solely ours based on who we are and our lives and our filters and our experiences. So to me, having that confrontation feels like peace. Pretending that everything is fine and brushing it under the rug, that does not feel like peace to me. Now, to a lot of people, that feels like peace, right? Now, I have great communication skills. I know how to talk to people. I know how to share what it is that I feel and what I need. And so I feel confident, like, I need to just crush this and like squash it and be done with it, because I don't like that ickiness, right? So for me, that feels like peace. What should I do? Then I'm going to do it. When should I do it? And I'll just kind of like put up the question. And then sometimes I hear now, and I'm like, oh, where's my phone? And I'll call and say, hey, do you have a minute to talk? And they're like, oh yeah, I'm totally free. What's up? Of course you are, because my higher self, and I tell them this, right, will know So like, it's so powerful. It's so powerful, y'all. It's so powerful. And I know that this is different than a lot of the personal growth and development stuff that I do, or at least it feels different. To me, it doesn't. It's all intertwined, right? And being able to trust ourselves, being able to trust our peace, being able to move in spaces that are not rooted in fear and not make decisions from fear. Freedom. Freedom. And on that note, I want to say this too. If someone gives you advice, don't feel like you have to take it, because they're giving you advice from their experiences, from their exposures, from their filters. That's all they can do. So they're giving you what they would do based on where they're at. And if they are rooted in fear, they're going to give you advice that is also rooted in fear. If they are rooted in love, they're going to give you advice that is rooted in love. So be aware when you feel stuck, should you be going to another person, or should you go to your inner peace as your way to find that roadmap, to find that path, to find that next step, right? Because that is what is going to continuously guide you to those next levels of healthy and happy and joy and peace and love. Okay, that's it. I'm done. It's a lot. I love you. There's nothing you can do about it. I'm going to go ahead and post this whole video. And it's not for everybody, and that's okay. Yeah. Okay, that's all I got. I hope you have a great rest of your day, rest of your week. See you next week. We're going to talk more about tuition. If you have questions about this kind of spirituality, intuition, guidance, holla. I love talking about this, and I'm tired of pretending like I don't. So we're doing it this month, right? If you know someone who can benefit from it, share it. If you haven't already, subscribe. I don't know. It'll be somewhere around here. And I'll talk to you next week. Peace. Yes, peace is the guide, right?